what makes things hard isn't complexity, it's consistency. It's finding a way to make a way every single time and to show up at that level. We've had this conversation before about consistency in terms of showing up at a 7 or 8, showing up at a 6 is better than showing up at a 10 sometimes, because those sixes add up daily. Whereas that 10 may show up once, twice a week. If you're showing up at a 7 3 times a week, then you're going to be doing more than the 10 showing up twice a week, even if it's by 1 rep, even if it's by 1 unit of measurement, because 10 twice is 20, 7 3, that's 21. It's only one. But you stack that one across 4 weeks, and that's four. You stack those, you stack those 4 weeks, you multiply that by 52, and you realize that this is reps on top of reps. And so the difference between the two things is actually compounding. It's exponential, because every time they don't show up and do that one, you're still doing that one. You're still bringing that one of value, and so you may not be the sharpest tool in the shed. You may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but you are in the drawer and you are pretty damn sharp. So if you can show up like that, and you can show up and make sure that you're handling your business, if you can show up and make sure that you are bringing it regardless, then there is something that you just tap into. Warren Buffett says compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. And yeah, pretty well off guy, I would say. And he knows a little something about the effect of compounding, as investment is the name of his game. And so with understanding that, you also realize that this doesn't only apply to the singular things that we do. This also applies to the skills that we wish to uptake, meaning what makes things hard is not the complexity of them. It's not that they are so difficult to fathom that you can't deal with them, but rather that even if they may be difficult at first, or they may present as difficult at first, it is the constant interaction with them, the constant dealing with them over time. They become less and less complex, not because the complexity decreases, but because your consistency increases. That allows you to be exposed to more variation of these simple patterns. What makes things hard is not complexity. It is consistency. And the tricky thing about consistency is it's not just a one-day thing. You can't just show up and be excellent and deem yourself consistent. It's much more than that. It's more than just showing up that one day, showing up those 2 days, those 3 days, showing up that week, that month, that year. It is a constant evolution, it's a constant battle, it's an everyday hustle, truly. And the beautiful thing about that consistency is it doesn't demand excellence of you. However, you'll find that if you are consistent, you become excellent. Meaning, have you ever heard that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called? It is a similar type of concept of, in order to be consistent, you do not need to first be excellent. You can be consistent and become excellent over time. So that consistency is the missing link ultimately to achieving and becoming that which we wish to become. And the difficult thing about it, I do understand. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's all sunshine and rainbows. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's easy. I mean, we're out here, we're standing, recording, making sure we're getting this out on the Monday, or on the Wednesday rather, sorry, because we get it in where we can fit it in, because that consistency is the name of the game. And so I'm not preaching something that I would never practice myself. I'm preaching something as I am practicing it, because consistency means sometimes it won't be ideal. Sometimes it won't be perfect. Sometimes it won't be exactly the way that we want it to be. The audio quality of this may be piss poor. If you're listening in headphones, I may be talking to your left ear right now. You may not even tune into this video, but the fact that this video is out there, and it's the proof being in the pudding, in the pudding itself, it just speaks to something, which is much more than any sort of video that I could have shown up and did on Thursday and said, oh, Wednesday I couldn't get that video out, but consistency. Listen, consistency means even if you miss the day. But that is also true. Even if for some reason I literally was not able to record today, then pushing it out on the Thursday and making sure that, just making sure that the numbers add up, because the numbers add up at the end of the day. The numbers add up and they don't lie. So if you are coming through and if you are showing up, regardless of what level you're showing up at, if you can't show up at a 10 today for, technical difficulties, my mic literally, I was about to make this earlier, turn this on, it ran out of batteries. That's that. We put that to the side and we accept that this video is going to have a lower audio quality. We accept that the visual quality is not going to be what it needs to be because the equipment is packed up. We accept all those things and we push on regardless, because the work works on us more than we're working on it. And so it is not always about trying to produce the highest quality thing that you possibly can, because sometimes the substance is worth more than what is going into it. We talk about me right here, white wall behind me, talking to you guys, being real, being authentic, and letting you know what it really is about, versus, LED lights, dope microphone, this, that, the third. Not to say that we don't strive for these things, not to say that when we can, we're not invested in our craft enough to do what we can to make it as high quality as possible. Not to say that we don't do those things, but just to say that is not what makes this. That's not what makes us. We are not made by the technology that we use to make. We are the creators. And so with all that being said, being consistent when it comes to this, when it comes to the gym, when it comes to academics, when it comes to entrepreneurship, the thing that makes things difficult is not complexity. It's not that it is hard to say hi to people, to remember people's names, to do all these things, look a man in the eye when you're shaking his hand, to introduce yourself, to make sure that if you get a lead, you call him immediately, you qualify that lead, this, that. Those things are not infinitely complex, but it is the doing of them consistently that begets success. And so it goes for everything. Any sort of skill, any sort of, like, math is something that people think of as infinitely complex. But it is not the complexity that makes math hard. It's not that if I sat you down and explained the rules to you, you literally wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. But it is that you consistently have to be exposed to those rules and consistently have to practice those rules in order to be able to retain and recall them on command. And that is what is difficult. That is what makes math difficult. That is what makes life difficult. Any skill difficult. That's what makes content creation difficult over a long enough time horizon. But if you show up consistently, if you can't show up at that 10 that you usually show up at, whatever 10 is for you, which may be a 1 or 2 to someone else, but whatever a 10 is for you, if you are constantly showing up at that 10 as often as you can, some days when you can't come up at a 10, you come at an 8, and then nearing the end of what you're doing, you pick the energy level back up, or whatever the case is, or days like this when you are technology's out, freaking the schedule is ruined, like all this, that, the third, and the audio quality is probably terrible. The lighting's not that good. Don't even have a shirt on. Whatever the case is, and you're coming at a 4, you're coming at a 2, you're coming at a 1, whatever the case is, whatever the people feel, if you are still showing up even on those days, it just fuels you to go even harder on the ideal days, and it informs the mind, the body, the spirit. It informs the soul that we live by this and we die by this, and every man must search his own soul. Every man must search within themselves, because we live by this, we die by this, and we don't retreat. I've been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.